At 74, Caleb Thompson lives in a quiet lakeside town in Oregon. Once a passionate electrician who could climb ladders and reach roofs with ease, Caleb now struggles to climb 3 flights of stairs without gasping for breath. His wife, Amelia, has noticed subtle changes: the way he starts to avoid his morning walks, the way he holds onto furniture for balance, the way he flinches when he stands for too long. The once energetic man who spent hours tending their garden now sits indoors, watching the world go by from the front porch. Every creak in his knee and jerk in his ankle reminds him that his legs are not what they used to be. But more than the physical pain, it's the loss of independence that haunts him. One rainy afternoon, as he nearly slipped while carrying groceries into the driveway, Caleb felt a cold fear spread through him, not just of falling, but of being a burden. That moment was a wake-up call. Something had to change. He wasn't ready to surrender to aging, not yet. And that's when a chance conversation with an old friend changed his life. A week after his near fall, Caleb received a call from Grace Montgomery, a childhood friend he hadn't spoken to in years. Now 72, Grace was full of life, her voice still crisp, her laugh infectious. She had just returned from Arizona, where she spent time at a senior wellness retreat focused on mobility and nutrition for older adults. When Caleb told her about how he almost collapsed outside and how weak his legs were, Grace didn't respond with sympathy, she responded with energy. "You don't need another prescription, Caleb," she said. "You need fuel. Real fuel. Your legs are the engine, and you've been feeding them junk food." Caleb chuckled, but Grace continued. She explained that she'd been through a similar situation: pain, weakness, even a broken toe from a small hike. But instead of giving up, she'd followed the advice of a nutritionist and focused on 5 specific foods that had been shown to rebuild muscle mass, strengthen bones, and reduce inflammation in people over 70. Grace promised to email him a list, including recipes and scientific studies. That night, Caleb sat at his old wooden kitchen table, reading her notes. These meals weren't fancy or expensive. In fact, they were surprisingly simple: salmon, dark leafy greens, chia seeds, Greek yogurt, and sweet potatoes. Each had a purpose. 1. Salmon, the omega-3 champion for joints and muscles. If your knees creak like an old wooden floor, salmon may be your new best friend. Rich in omega-3 fatty acids, salmon helps reduce chronic inflammation, which is a leading cause of joint pain and stiffness in older adults. Why it works. Omega-3s, EPA and DHA, lubricate joints and reduce the breakdown of cartilage. High in protein, which is essential for maintaining lean muscle mass, something that naturally declines with age. Contains vitamin D, vital for bone strength and reducing the risk of falls. Real-life benefit. Studies from the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition show that elderly adults who consume fatty fish twice a week experience less muscle loss and better walking speed than those who don't. How to eat it. Bake a salmon fillet with lemon and herbs. Mix canned salmon into a salad with avocado and spinach. Grill it with garlic and olive oil for a heart-healthy dinner. 2. Dark leafy greens, calcium and vitamin K for stronger bones. Kale, spinach, collard greens, these may seem like rabbit food, but they're bone-strengthening powerhouses. Weak bones lead to weak legs. And falls in older age often result in fractures that drastically reduce mobility. Why it works. Packed with calcium, essential for bone density. High in vitamin K, which helps the body use calcium properly. Rich in magnesium, which supports muscle function and prevents cramps. Real-life benefit. A long-term study of postmenopausal women found that those who consumed vitamin K-rich greens had fewer hip fractures and better leg strength over time. How to eat it. Blend spinach into a morning smoothie. Sauté kale with olive oil, garlic, and a pinch of sea salt. Add collard greens to soups or stews for flavor and nutrients. 3. Chia seeds, the tiny anti-inflammatory giants. They may be small, but chia seeds pack a powerful punch, especially when it comes to keeping joints lubricated and reducing inflammation. Why it works. Loaded with omega-3 fatty acids, yes, even more than flaxseed. Rich in fiber, which helps regulate blood sugar and gut health, both linked to overall inflammation. High in plant-based protein and calcium, a double boost for muscles and bones. Real-life benefit. People with arthritis or age-related joint stiffness report improved mobility and reduced pain after incorporating chia seeds into their diet regularly. How to eat it. Mix chia seeds into Greek yogurt and let it sit overnight to make a pudding. Add a spoonful to oatmeal or smoothies. Stir into soups or salad dressings for a nutritional upgrade. 4. Greek yogurt, muscle recovery and gut health in a cup. After 70, the body has a harder time building and repairing muscle. That's where Greek yogurt steps in. It's creamy, delicious, and packed with muscle-building protein. Why it works. High in complete proteins that contain all essential amino acids. Rich in calcium and probiotics, which help digestion and improve nutrient absorption. Contains vitamin B12, which supports nerve function and reduces muscle fatigue. Real-life benefit. A study from McMaster University showed that seniors who consumed Greek yogurt post-exercise experienced better muscle recovery and greater mobility improvements over time. How to eat it. Pair with berries and chia seeds for a power breakfast. Use as a base for smoothies. Replace mayonnaise or sour cream with Greek yogurt in recipes. 5. Sweet potatoes, energy and electrolyte support. Sweet potatoes aren't just for Thanksgiving, they're energy-boosting, muscle-protecting wonders that should be on your plate year-round. Why it works. Rich in potassium, which helps prevent muscle cramps and maintains fluid balance. Contains beta-carotene, vitamin A, which supports immune function and reduces inflammation. Provides complex carbs, essential for sustained energy during physical activity. Real-life benefit. Older adults often struggle with leg fatigue due to low potassium and carbohydrate intake. Sweet potatoes help restore stamina and reduce muscle tremors or weakness. How to eat it. Roast with cinnamon and olive oil. Mash with Greek yogurt for a creamy texture. Slice thin and bake into chips for a healthy snack. Bonus, how these 5 work together like a dream team. Individually, each of these foods has powerful benefits, but together, they form a nutritional defense system against age-related decline. Protein plus calcium, Greek yogurt plus grains strengthens bones and muscles. Omega-3s plus fiber, salmon plus chia reduces inflammation and supports joints. Potassium plus magnesium, sweet potatoes plus grains prevents cramping and improves energy. It's not just about eating better, it's about moving better. With stronger legs, you gain independence, confidence, and joy in daily activities. Caleb's transformation, a real reminder. Remember Caleb, the 74-year-old electrician from Oregon? After just 2 months of eating these 5 foods daily, alongside light stretches and walks, he noticed real change. He walked to his neighbor's house without resting. He got back to gardening. Most importantly, he felt hope again. Final thoughts, your legs deserve a fighting chance. You've carried children, walked through decades of memories, stood through life's hardest moments. Your legs have done more for you than you realize. Isn't it time you gave them something back? Start today. Add just one of these foods to your next meal. Your future self will thank you with every confident step you take. Skeptical but hopeful, Caleb committed to a 2-week experiment. He cleaned out his pantry, replaced processed snacks with fresh produce, and even joined Amelia in the kitchen. For the first time in years, cooking became a joy rather than a routine. By day 3, he noticed that the stiffness in his ankles was no longer as severe. By day 7, he could walk to the mailbox without stopping. Small victories, but victories nonetheless. More importantly, something inside Caleb had changed. He no longer saw his aging body as a prison but as a project worth investing in. For the first time in months, he slept through the night without being woken by cramps or spasms. He started keeping a journal, tracking his meals, his workouts, and small moments of progress. Amelia noticed his eyes brightening again, his stride returning, if only slightly. The turning point wasn't just about food. It was about taking back control. Grace had inadvertently given him a lifeline, and Caleb was determined not to waste it. 3 weeks into his new routine, something began to shift, not just in Caleb's body, but in his mindset. The stiffness that once greeted him every morning like an old enemy had softened. He still had moments of discomfort, sure, but there was a new kind of awareness in how he moved. For the first time in years, he didn't shuffle from room to room, he walked with purpose, back straight, head up. But the biggest change wasn't physical, it was internal. Caleb had always seen aging as a slow, inevitable breakdown. Like an old truck, worn out and beyond repair. But now, with every meal made with care, every stretch of his legs on a short evening walk, he started to see things differently. Aging wasn't decay. It was transition, a stage where attention and intention mattered more than ever. One quiet morning, sitting on the porch with a warm mug of tea, Caleb turned to Amelia and said, "I used to think growing old meant slowing down until you stopped. But I think I just never gave my body what it needed to keep going." She smiled and nodded. She'd noticed the difference too. The color back in his face. The confidence in his voice. The quiet joy when he tied his shoes without wincing. Even small victories became symbols of strength. Lifting a heavy grocery bag without fear of pulling something. Walking down the garden path without using the railing. Getting on the floor to play with his granddaughter and standing back up, with minimal effort. He began reading more about nutrition, about the science of aging muscles, about how protein synthesis slows down in older adults and why anti-inflammatory foods can make or break your mobility. Caleb didn't just change what was on his plate, he changed how he valued himself. He realized how little attention he had given his body since retirement. The daily routines of convenience, frozen dinners, sugary snacks, long hours in front of the TV, had robbed him of his vitality. But now, fueled by knowledge and a few powerful foods, he felt something rare for a man in his 70s. Momentum. This change in perspective became contagious. His old friend Grace noticed it when they spoke. His grandson, visiting from college, told him he seemed stronger somehow. Even his doctor raised an eyebrow at the improvements in his blood pressure, his balance test scores, and his reduced inflammation markers. What started as a fearful response to a near fall had become a personal revolution. Caleb understood now, caring for your legs isn't just about mobility, it's about freedom. And freedom is a fight worth having, no matter your age. One Sunday morning, as Caleb strolled through the small local farmer's market, a flyer caught his eye. It was pinned to a bulletin board beside a honey stand and read, "Silver Steps, Gentle Movement Class for Seniors. Free every Tuesday at Lakeside Community Hall." In the past, Caleb would have dismissed it with a quiet grunt and a wave of the hand. But today, something in him stirred. A new sense of readiness. Of curiosity. He folded the flyer and tucked it into his jacket pocket. The following Tuesday, he showed up. The room was filled with older adults, men and women just like him, some with walkers, some with canes, others laughing and chatting like old friends. At the front stood Instructor Leo, a cheerful retired physical therapist in his 60s, who welcomed everyone like family. The class began with slow, deliberate movements. Seated stretches. Gentle balance exercises. Light resistance work using bands and small weights. Caleb moved cautiously at first, but as the minutes passed, he began to feel a rhythm return to his body. His muscles responded. His feet were more sure. His posture more upright. After class, people gathered for tea and snacks. Caleb ended up in a circle with 3 other gentlemen, all ex-tradesmen like him, sharing stories about bad knees, grandkids, and the joys of baked sweet potatoes. That day lit a new flame in him. He didn't just walk better. He felt seen again. Part of something. Connected. From then on, every Tuesday became a ritual. And as he grew stronger, Leo pulled him aside and said, "Caleb, I've seen a lot of folks in here, but the way you've bounced back, it's inspiring. Would you consider helping me lead warm-ups next month?" Caleb blinked. Led? Him? But something inside him said yes. That yes became the start of a brand new chapter. Not just movement, but purpose. Caleb started sharing his story, bringing in recipes, even helping newcomers ease into their routines. He encouraged others to try salmon and chia seeds, even bringing little zip bags of grains from his garden. Soon, a small circle began forming around him after each session, people asking questions, seeking advice. Caleb, once the man who feared losing his independence, had become a pillar of strength for others. It wasn't about ego. It was about contribution. About using his pain and progress to help someone else take that first brave step toward reclaiming their life. For Caleb, this was the opportunity he didn't know he needed. To not just heal, but to lead. It had been 3 months since Caleb first changed his diet and started moving again. But the transformation now went far beyond stronger legs or better balance. Something deep within him had shifted, something permanent. Caleb had grown into a version of himself he hadn't seen in decades. He woke up each morning not dreading the pain, but excited for what the day might bring. His mornings now began with stretching near the living room window, watching the sunrise with a deep breath and a quiet gratitude that whispered, "You're still in this game." At the community center, Caleb was no longer just a participant, he was a mentor. He helped Leo warm up the group, corrected postures gently, encouraged people by name, and shared simple wellness tips. When new members hesitated at the door, unsure whether they belonged, it was Caleb's kind words and calm energy that drew them in. Amelia often joked, "You're like the unofficial mayor of that center now." But it wasn't just physical confidence, Caleb had developed a mental resilience too. He no longer feared aging. In fact, he embraced it. Because now he knew, aging didn't mean decline, it meant adapting, refining, strengthening from within. Even at home, his relationship with Amelia blossomed in new ways. They cooked meals together, laughed over new recipes, and spent quiet evenings tending to the herb garden. The man who once sank into the recliner with a sigh now stood proudly, apron on, chopping kale while humming old tunes. One weekend, their granddaughter came to visit. She looked up in surprise when Caleb jogged down the front steps to greet her. "Grandpa, since when do you run?" He grinned. "Since I stopped believing I was broken." He told her about the foods that changed his life, the stretches that gave him strength, the friends who reminded him of his worth. And as she sat listening, wide-eyed and inspired, Caleb realized something important. His journey wasn't just saving his life, it was modeling a different future for the next generation. No longer bound by fear or limitation, Caleb set new goals, not big ones, but meaningful ones. Walk 3 miles by summer. Grow enough grains to share with the entire class. Host a wellness potluck at the center with all 5 Super Legs foods featured. Each step forward reminded him that growth never ends, not at 74, not at 84. Because strength isn't just about muscle, it's about momentum, belief, and the quiet decision to keep showing up for yourself, one step at a time. On a crisp autumn morning, Caleb stood at the edge of Lakeside Park, watching the golden leaves swirl in the wind. A familiar breeze brushed against his cheeks as he took a deep breath, feeling the ground solid beneath his feet. 3 miles lay ahead of him, the very goal he had set just months ago. And today, he would reach it. As he began his walk, each step echoed years of struggle, triumph, and quiet determination. There were no medals to be won, no crowds to cheer him on, but inside, he felt more victorious than he ever had before. The man who once feared stairs now embraced trails. The man who had nearly surrendered to aging now stood tall, moving with intention, strength, and pride. Halfway through the walk, he was joined by Amelia. They strolled hand in hand, talking about everything and nothing, like they did in their younger days. She smiled and said, "I'm proud of you. But more than that, I think you're proud of yourself now." Caleb paused, heart full. "Yeah," he said. "For the first time in a long time, I am." That simple walk became symbolic. Not just of how far he'd come physically, but how deeply his soul had healed. No longer defined by limitation or fear, he now lived in a state of renewed possibility. At the next Silver Steps class, Caleb stood in front of the room. His voice calm, but strong. I used to think my best years were behind me. That after a certain age, you're just waiting. But I was wrong. Every single day you choose to fight for yourself, through the food you eat, the steps you take, the thoughts you allow, is a day you're still living, not just surviving. The room went quiet. Some nodded. Others wiped away a tear. He wasn't just talking about salmon or sweet potatoes anymore. He was talking about hope. About self-respect. About believing, even in your 70s, that change is possible. By the end of that week, 5 new members had joined the class. Not because of a flyer or a doctor's recommendation, but because they'd heard about Caleb. He had become a quiet revolution. An ordinary man with an extraordinary message. Your body may grow older, but your spirit doesn't have to. Nourish both, and you'll keep moving forward. And with every bite of leafy greens, every spoonful of yogurt, every walk under the Oregon sky, Caleb lived that truth. Step by step. Meal by meal. Life fully lived. Aging isn't the end of the road, it's simply a new path, and the way you walk it makes all the difference. Caleb's story reminds us that small changes, like choosing whole foods over processed ones, or standing up for a walk instead of giving in to the couch, can set off a powerful ripple effect. The greatest lesson? You are not powerless. No matter how old you are, your body is still listening. Your bones are still rebuilding. Your muscles still respond. And most importantly, your spirit still craves purpose. It's not about avoiding aging, it's about embracing it with courage and giving yourself the best tools to thrive. Whether it's a bowl of Greek yogurt or a mile walked at your own pace, every decision in your favor is a step toward reclaiming your independence, dignity, and joy. Don't wait until you fall to rise. Start now. Because your legs, your life, are worth fighting for. Here's how to begin, right now. Add one of the 5 foods to your next meal. Start with a spoonful of chia in your morning yogurt or swap white rice for sweet potatoes at dinner. Move for just 10 minutes a day, stretch, walk around the house, or join a local senior movement class. Track small wins, write down what you ate and how you felt. The progress will motivate you. Talk to your doctor about your diet and exercise plan. And most importantly, share your journey. Like Caleb, you could inspire someone else to take their first step.